I'm thinking some more about this dualist aspect of being, in which one feels oneself to be separate from the world, which has its uses. I'm not denying that. But certainly it seems to be one of the projects of various spiritual and enlightenment practices to transcend that dualism somehow, and to recognize one's seamless integration within the world. And that seamless integration, I think, is not, I don't think there's anything controversial about that. I mean, you certainly find that as an idea in pretty much all established scientific practices. I don't think anyone really believes there is any kind of vitalist soul or spirit which is fundamentally distinct from the material physical world in which we live. So the appearance that we have this dual nature in the material soul or spirit or mind, if you like, somehow locked away from the world out there is I guess some kind of a useful illusion, and one which people seem to find entertaining and possibly instructive to dispense with, at least temporarily, in order to experience this kind of seamless welding. What I think Merleau-Ponty calls the body being in the world in the way that the heart is in the body. And where else you find referred to as the kind of monist understanding. Anyway, where am I going with this? Oh yeah, there's a section in Mark Johnson's book, The Meaning of the Body, in which he talks about dualism, and he provides a kind of account for that, drawing on Hugh Leder's phenomenological work in The Absent Body, in which the mind-body duality is accounted for by this sense that we have of our body being, what Leder refers to as ecstatic or absent, in which our intentionality, our sensory engagement with the world is experienced as a kind of flow which leaves the body behind, so that when I look out through my eyes, I'm not just looking out, in a sense I'm going out and leaving my body behind. So there's this constant sense of the body being ecstatically detached from the world because of the onrush of sensory engagement. As I say, Mark Johnson seems to be drawing on Leder's work as an account for mind-body dualism, or not just mind-body dualism, but mind-world dualism. I think you also see that a bit in Polanyi, which I think I've spoken about before. And I think both Polanyi, but certainly Drew Leder also, talks about this sense of from-atness. So when I look at something, as I've just said, there's a sense in which my body is where it's from and the thing is where it's at. And there's this vector, this trajectory that intentionality flows along. Similarly, listening, I listen to something, to being vectorial again, so there's this sense in which my listening is going out, leaving my body behind, locked away. Not leaving my body behind, I beg your pardon, leaving this kind of sense of some essential mind or something located in this part of space as opposed to that part of space. It's from-atness. I think you also get it in a slightly different register in Martin Buber's work, where he talks about the I-thou relation. He's not talking about looking at objects, although I think he might in some of his writing. But certainly he talks about, look at this beautiful dog. Could it be a fight? Anyway, in Martin Buber's work he talks, Phoebe, come on, Phoebe! Not quite a fight, it's a bit of a scrap. Come on, you two. Anyway, Martin Buber talks about, he talks about I-thou, as opposed to I-you relations, in which he's not talking about objects specifically. He's talking about people. So you establish either an I-thou relationship with another person, or an I-you relation. I-you being an essentially dualist experience of separateness, and I-thou being one of shared mutual arising, and in which both oneself and the other arise simultaneously in this I-thou dyad. So again, I think there's something of that in this. I think there's a kind of vectorial account in that as well. So I think one of the ways that I'm thinking about in terms of transcending that dual distinction of fun and profit is by kind of substituting for myself different terminology, just to see if I can kind of configure the software of my imagination slightly differently by not using that language to myself, not using the language of from, to, from, at, all these vectorial terms. So the word I'm using right now is with. And it's quite interesting. It's a subtle effect, but I do think there is an effect. So there's a tree over here, surrounded by trees. That's the tree that I'm looking at right now. And when I look at the tree, I can feel myself located this place in space. And I can feel the tree located over there. And the from, at narrates that distinction, the atness of it, the direction of that performance, of that language performance, puts the tree over there, separate from me. I think it also removes it in time slightly, which I haven't really got time to think about right now, but there's a sense in which the tree comes after me somehow in the timeline, because here I am looking at the tree, and it takes kind of time for the atness to arrive at the tree, if that makes any sense at all. So I think, when I think I am looking at the tree definitely establishes itself as a sovereign object, separate from me as another sovereign object, and duality is maintained. If I substitute the word with, and say I am looking with the tree, and just saying it, I can feel a difference. I am looking with the tree. When I think that, the logic in my mind is that with implies that myself and the tree are arising mutually. We're part of the same moment of looking, and there is no dualistic separation either in space or time. Well, there's separation in space, but we're part of the same space, and there's no separation in time, and there's no sense of vectorial at or to-ness. It's just a withness. And I can't feel a subtle difference when I do that. So that's just a little exercise that I'm playing with right now. In addition to the phenomenological writers that I mentioned earlier, I think it also owes something to some of those neuroscience stuff, like, for example, the Max Bellman's stuff that I've talked about before, in which he talks about reflexive monism. When we look at something, the thing that we look at is not in our mind, it's a representation, it's out there in the world, and the thing that we're looking at and the part of our mind and our brain that are doing the looking are all part of the same visual performance. So there's a withness, I think, in Bellman's, which is copacetic with the way I'm using it here. I am looking with